Hi. Today I would like to talk about postcolonial theory and psychology. Modern psychology, of course, it is a Western science and it is a Western construction. Uh, but then, if modern psychology is Western construction, what does uh, colonial theory say about it? What is, in order to answer this question, we have to understand what post-colonial theory is all about. Colonialism is an important phenomenon of modern world. What is colonialism? European powers dominated uh, many parts of the world. In Asia, in Latin America, in Oceania, in Africa, and so on. And especially in the second half of 20th century, most of this colony become independent. But people, yes, they say that, yes, these countries become independent, but colonialist legacy is still there. What they mean by colonialist legacy? They say colonial European power not only ruled and dominated this country militarily and politically, but at the same time, they uh, colonized this country culturally. So, what they say, cultural legacy of colonial period is still there. And another important issue, all human sciences, sociology, psychology, anthropology, and so on, these sciences don't explain the realities of colonized societies. What, what they basically, post-colonial theory draws our attention to this dichotomy. It said that Western European colonial power, they construct themselves as the West. And also this West need opposite side, and they construct other. So West said that I am the ruler, I am the superior, I represent myself, as well as I am speaking on your behalf. I am speaking on the behalf of the other. So the other cannot be represented. Only West is an actor who can represent itself as well as other. So, in this regard, post-colonial theory said that, wait a minute, you can't speak on behalf of others because you don't understand their reality. What you are speaking is not their reality. It is your fiction. So, post-colonial theory is a challenge to colonialist legacy in the cultural field, in the scientific field, in academia, in economy, in politics, and so on. So I think post-colonial theory in this regard is very important and it is very valuable. Why? Because post-colonial theory provide us different visions, different ideas, different perspective in order to look at no Western society from different perspectives. So that means that Western narrations of no Western society is not the only valid narrations. We have to look at alternative narrations. So post-colonial theory help us to search and see alternative narrations about no Western society. So this idea is very influential in psychology as well, because psychology basically, essentially, it has one narration and it is Western narration because it is Western science. And post-colonial theory say to psychology, look, if you want to go beyond these boundaries, you have to find alternative psychological narrations about no Western society. So, at this regard, critical psychology, we could say that it is a branch of psychology which aims to search alternative psychological explanations, ideas, methods in order to understand other society better. So, uh, post-colonial theory, first of all, it is not Western-centric. It is no Western-centric. Similarly, psychology, critical psychology, help us to see or to challenge the Western centricity of modern psychology. So this is something very important issue. Uh, Another important point, post-colonial theory inform us, help us to see and to gain knowledge about Western colonialism and Western racism. Maybe. So critical psychology, if it engages with post-colonial theory, that means that psychology will learn more about Western colonialism, racism, oppression, and so on. So, uh, of course, post-colonial theory is a challenge. It is an interrogation of epistemological, philosophical, political, cultural assumption of colonized powers about no Western society. Uh, 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 But psychology, fundamentally, it is a sort of apolitic discipline. Psychology, modern psychology, didn't question or interrogate Western colonial assumption about no Western society. So postcolonial theory opens the way for psychology to psychologize colonialism, colonialist legacy, because it said that we need a new psychology which could question, challenge, and criticize Western assumption about no Western man, woman, and communities. Maybe in this regard, we could say that critical psychology, in one sense, it is critical psychology, in one sense, it is a sort of post-colonial psychology. And of course, if we search post-colonial psychology, the issue of expression, the issue of belonging, the issue of trauma, and this transnational exchange, translational, cultural exchange, all these issues will be very important issue for critical psychology. So, what is the importance of postcolonial theory and postcolonial psychology? The importance is this. In colonial period, no Western people, just the object of the knowledge, because colonial power look the other and they speak on their behalf. They represent the other. But post-colonial theory and critical psychology say that no, you are not the object of knowledge. You are the subject of the knowledge. So here is the very important point. The point is post-colonial theory and critical psychology makes no Western people, no Western individual as the actor rather than spectator in the area of psychology and in the area of post-colonial study. Say, you represent yourself, you talk about your psychology, you tell us what sort of person you are. So it opens the way. But in colonial period, just no Western society, they are just spectator. Actor is colonial power. So no Western people became actors, become the subject of the knowledge rather than the object. this is very, very important issue. Post-colonial theory criticized the traditionally established cultural, epistemological, political ideas about other. But the point is here, when colonialist Western powers describe and impose their perception about no Western people, they present their idea and their imposition as universal. So, post-colonial theory said that Western assumption about other is not universal. It is very local, very provincial. Western psychology, for example, is not a universal psychology. They say no Western people, they must speak about their psychology. They must invent, they must formulate, they must systemize their psychology. So what post-colonial theory is trying to do, say yes, West, Europe is important, but it is not the only actor in the world. Europe, North America, they are just two important provinces in the world. They are not the world. So, post-colonial theory and critical psychology try to provincialize Western way of looking the world, Western sciences, humanity, literature, politics, and so on, and they try to open place for other provinces of humanity. Of course, post-colonial theory is a way of confronting with Western system. For example, it is confronting with Western capitalism, Western economical model, and Western style of politics. Post-colonial theory draws our attention to cultural, political, and social conditions. You have to understand people within the context in which they are living. If you just isolate individual from political, cultural, and social context to understand them. It's not something possible. So, post-colonial theory thinks that there is a power factor behind this structure. So, how power and politics influence or shapes human psychology? How colonialist powers imposes their politics and power on other as psychology. So maybe critical psychology could help us to understand the psychology of colonialism, colonized people. Frantz Fanon, in this regard, probably he is the most important person who really made a great contribution to the area of psychology of colonialism and racism. Uh, Finally, I would like to make the last point. Psychology so far there is no creative and constructive engagement of modern psychology with post-colonial theory. And similarly, in post-colonial theory, there is no psychological critique of colonialism. If critical psychology is a hopeful start, it is an important discipline within psychology, but if post-colonial theory and psychology engages with each other, they could learn a lot of things from each other. So my last point is colonial theory and psychology, they need each other. Thank you.